Next up, Canoo's stock. Their stock is cratering. Stock ticker symbol is GOEV. It's down over 50% from highs. It's now under $9 a share, and many analysts are saying that this is like a screaming buy. It is just extremely undervalued right now. Main reason why the stock price has been dropping so much recently is really because they had one of their first investor calls with a recent earnings report, and there have been a couple changes with management, and the deal with Hyundai appears to be completely dead. So originally, a couple months back, and for the last about year and a half, Canoo has been talking about a partnership with Hyundai, and they've been explaining how their business model was going to be to really be like an engineering services line, selling their software to other companies. At one point, there been interest from Apple to have a partnership with them, and basically all of those deals, all of those partnerships are no longer in play for the company. During the recent investor call, their CEO, it wasn't a great look for the company. Let's just say that. So their CEO was absent from the call, and the company announced earlier that same day that their CFO had resigned to take another job. That was the second departure from a high-level person in the company in the recent weeks. They lost their head of corporate strategy, so they lost their CFO, head of corporate strategy, and the CEO wasn't present at the investors call. Despite all of that, though, despite that happening, and despite the deal with Hyundai basically no longer being in play, that doesn't affect the value of the company at all. So, according to the investor call, they explained how what they're going to be focusing on now over the next couple of years is going to focus on making and selling their own vehicles. They explained how they've had a lot of demand for their 3 vehicles, one of which is their pickup truck, which I spoke about in a recent video, my recent podcast. They've had a lot of demand for their pickup truck, and they say that they want to focus on making and selling their own vehicles to consumers first. Later on, they'll focus on their partnerships. There'll always be partnerships out there. They can work on those later. So while they did change, their business model from trying to really focus on these partnerships and maybe some software, licensing things out, to now working more direct with consumers and focus on selling their vehicles, in reality, the changes in management, what happened with the investors call, do not impact the company's core value at all. Core value is really around its intellectual property, its IP, its technology, its engineering team, and none of that has changed. None of that has changed at all. They still have their skateboard technology, which is essentially the platform that they put the cars on. It essentially looks like a skateboard where the vehicles go on, and it can be used across all of their different models of vehicles. So right now, the only thing that's changed is how they plan to monetize their IP. And that's just focusing on making it and, selling their own vehicles first, then worrying about the partnerships later. So the problem with this, it's not just all positives, it's not all negatives. The positives are, nothing has changed with the real core value of the company, the intellectual property, nothing has changed there. The downsides are, that partnership with Hyundai brings a lot of positive press and things like that, no longer there. And also, by focusing more on making and selling their own vehicles, that could lead to less revenue in the short term and could hurt the prospects short term. Long term, though, it will result in higher profits because they're selling and making their own vehicles. So there's some, give and take with this. Not all positives, not all negatives, but still at under $10 a share. It's off nearly 50-60% from where it was at all-time highs just a couple of weeks ago. And when we start seeing these tech stocks bounce back, I think we're definitely going to see Canoo, stock ticker symbol GOEV, bounce back as well.